Hello, and welcome to another episode of Chats with Bess in collaboration with GenUnity, an organization that helps train and shape leaders so that they can affect positive change in their communities. Today, we have another member of this cohort, but also involved member of her community. And we're going to hear about her story and why she chose to get involved, essentially, and what that means. So, Brittany, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Of course. So to anyone watching, and again, from former episodes, we've talked about GenUnity being a Boston-based organization, but that is trying to expand so that it can shape leaders around the country, right? So that they can become supportive people of their communities across the country. But since we're here in Boston, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background. You're from around here. Where did you go to school? Anything that you think can help us get a little bit more sense of who Brittany is.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I am originally from New York City, but a New England native. I grew up on the shoreline in Connecticut, and I've been working in campaigns and advocacy for about 15 years along the East Coast and Michigan. I've really come into this through being an advocate. I'm a single mom of two kids, a teenager and an elementary school kid. And so education is something that's huge. And so GenUnity fits all of that. I currently serve as Danielle Allen's senior advisor, formerly her campaign manager. And I also serve as a senior advisor for Larissa Wright, running for state senate in Florida, and the chief impact advisor of Partners in Democracy, which is a new and coming organization.
How did you get involved in politics, in campaigning, in helping lead campaigns that were successful, are successful, and in becoming an advocate? How does one just regular person gets involved in politics?
Yeah, I mean, I came into politics by accident. Essentially, I decided to volunteer for a local politician that was running, and that turned into me taking on a full-time job with them, and someone kind of saying, "Hey, you should do this," and training me up and becoming a mentor within politics. But advocacy is definitely a personal experience for people. It's something that you come through experiences with. And you'll notice a lot of advocates are geared towards specific things that they're encouraged by or that they are driven to. And I became an advocate through being a single parent, through being the youngest of 7 kids, from being from an inner city and experiencing growing up in the suburbs. And all of those experiences have shaped the work that I do. Everyone is different, but the great thing about today's technology is that there's so many different ways to be involved. Whether that's in person or online or through like meet groups, whether it's on Facebook or just speaking out on TikTok, in social media apps. There's different ways and different levels of involvement and what someone is comfortable with. And my biggest thing is to find what you're comfortable with. Things don't have to be loud all the time, and even having those conversations within your circle, within your family and friends, is useful and helpful and will energize people and push people to take additional steps or have additional conversations. And that's a starting point, is just creating a conversation that everyone can be a part of.
The reality of modern day democracy authentic, right? Because some of us are still not comfortable going to marches or rallies or going door knocking because COVID is still an issue. Others don't want to spend all the time online or phone banking, right? Those are parts of volunteering activities. But so this sounds like the modern day democracy. What does that mean to you? Just the actual terminology of advocating for democracy.
Yeah, democracy has changed so much over the course of my lifetime and of history. But modern day democracy right now is the at the fundamental level is a fundamental process of social justice. It's, you know, a collective society making choices together and having these conversations, and, you know, partnership and compromise within our society and within our communities.
What do you hope for? And you just said something very accurate: social justice. But as we continue moving forward, and even, you know, at the local level, how can people realize that they can affect change at the local level? And what is your hope for that?
Yeah, I mean, my big thing with people is that, you know, everyone has power. Your power is within the voice and the choice that you make to use that voice. And power, as I said before, it doesn't have to be loud. You know, the great thing about power is you get to choose how you use it. It doesn't mean that you have to be on the steps of you know, the state house protesting. It could simply mean that you are gathering people. An example is I'm part of a Facebook group. It's called CALM. I used to live in North Carolina, so it's Charlotte Area Liberal Moms. And it's a group of moms who essentially got fed up with some of the issues within society, and they've created a space in which people are able to come in and learn and discuss these topics openly and as a community. And it provides people the power to go out and take action, to write letters to their school board, to have conversations with their families that may be on separate sides of an issue. All of those are power statements. It's alternative power, but it, you know, is a pathway forward to what we ultimately want to achieve, which is partnership within our democracy and a healthy democracy.
I love that everyone has their power. And so, you know, it brings it down to a basic level that not just elected officials can create change, right? That not just elected officials have power, because we elected those leaders. So essentially the power is ours, right? Because we're putting them in office. So we better make sure they're working for us, right? Like advocating, having those conversations. It all starts with conversation. So thank you for sharing that, because even a Facebook moms group is democracy, right? So as you have devolved into this field and, you know, taking more of a leadership position yourself, what have been some of the lessons, both good and bad?
I mean, the best lesson is that, you know, there is space for everyone, that you can create space and bring people into this and change people's minds. And you have the power to do so much more than what you feel you can. I mean, the negative is that you're putting yourself out there and that you are opening your mind to something that you may not agree with or something that you may not be comfortable with. And change is always uncomfortable. I always tell people if you are not uncomfortable during the course of change, then it's not going as it should. You know, direct change and choice of change always puts people in an uncomfortable space, and you have to learn to sit with that and be okay with that and open yourself up. But this is a chance for us, for you to truly change things, and make things into what you want them to be. And that starts at small levels. People look and we often focus on the large, like presidential, you know, candidates and elections. But the truth of the matter is that change is a bottom up change within democracy. And it starts with individuals, with families, with community. And then we're able to select who represents us and go from there. So if you want that change and you want to see people who represent yourself, it means that you have to step into that light and do what you can.
So how do you protect yourself, or you make sure that you are filling your own cup?
Yeah, there's so many different ways, and it has to be what's best for you. For me, as I said, I'm a single mom of 2 kids. I have a teenager that's headed to his 10th grade year, and a daughter that's headed to 2nd grade. And so you surround yourself with family. Family is the core of all that I do. I'm the youngest of 7 kids, and I see one of my sisters almost every single day. So taking time for family, understanding that while you have power and you're using that power, it's also okay to take a step back and let someone else show their power and use their power. It's collective, and sometimes it can feel like if you stop a movement, then everything will drop, but you have to trust that there's someone else that's going to pick up that baton and continue on while you're taking a break. And it's okay to take a break.
Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with GenUnity and what you do with this nonprofit.
Yeah, so I came to know GenUnity through my work with the committee to elect Danielle Allen during Danielle's run for governor within the state of Massachusetts. Understanding the educational system within Massachusetts and the civic engagement education that is taking place. Over the past few months, I've worked with them to build their program and build their structure and help with leadership and forming what that leadership may look like.
So what I like about the programming, and it's so wonderful to hear that you are part of it because it makes total sense, is that it's based around conversation. There's literally at the core, it's about having conversations with people who are like you or drastically different from you. And through those conversations, you learn to find common ground, because at the core, we're all still human, right? And so you mentioned it a couple of questions ago. Sometimes it makes you uncomfortable to have conversations that you don't agree with. Why is having those conversations so important?
I mean, it's just, you have to, in order to form proper opinions or understand what needs to be done, you have to understand where people are coming from. And, everyone has different experiences. Understanding how their experience shaped their opinion and how you can work together to find that common ground. You could have 2 separate people, two, like a Republican and a Democrat or an independent, but they may all be moms. They may all be teachers, and they understand that, kids are coming into the classroom and struggling with a subject, and they know how to help them. Or they understand that kids are coming into the classroom with difficult home lives, or, kids celebrating sports victories or anything else. But those simple, common things allow people to have conversations and find the base. Maybe one teacher has the answer of how to, close the gap in learning for students. It's about finding common ground and having those discussions. My hope is really that we can continue to bring new voices, that this is something where people feel comfortable sitting down and having a conversation, because it's not so politically driven. And it's more driven on civic engagement rather than a specific candidate or certain lines within the spectrum of politics. And so I'm hoping that they have these conversations, that people feel comfortable enough to step into the conversation and uncomfortable enough to notice the change. that is taking place, and that it is something that they can carry to other states and other spaces.
And I love that. Be comfortable enough to get into the conversation and uncomfortable enough to realize the change.
Yeah.
That is perfect. That was perfectly worded. But I want to go back, and you kept saying a couple of times already that you're one of 7. I imagine that your ability to be, diplomatic came from having a family of 7 children. So as you were growing up, for someone, I'm an only child, right? So I have had to learn to deal with people's personalities and engage in conversation simply by schooling, by learning how to socialize. I didn't have the gifts of having, siblings around to learn how to do that from an early age. Yeah. But to anyone who's sort of like me and doesn't really get used to talking to a lot of people or being in a large setting of people together, how do we develop those social skills? I mean, talk to me about growing up and how it was with 7 siblings in the house and how that has helped you with what you do today.
Yeah, I mean, for people that don't have huge families like I do, it's really whatever you're comfortable with. People have to have a certain level. While I'm telling you that people have to be uncomfortable, you also have to be in a space where you feel safe enough to have these conversations. And as I mentioned before, if that's having a conversation with one friend, then that's having a conversation with one friend, because that will help to shape how each of you guys votes, how each of you guys gets involved in your community and takes action. These steps don't have to be huge, but we have to take a step. And for me growing up, I was the youngest of all of my siblings. And so my oldest is 12 years older than me. So it was a lot of fun. It was, family gatherings were always, something that we did, and it was always okay to debate and have conversations and call people to task and go back again and have some fun, and that's the way that I grew up. That was what was promoted to me. Being the youngest, I was always kind of pushed around. I won't lie, but it's as I got older, I was really a quiet kid. I didn't step outside of the boundaries. I, followed the rules. It wasn't really until college or my mid-20s that I probably found my voice. And the great thing about that was that I was able to kind of look back and see what things had shaped me along the way and what my stance was, and become very comfortable with it.
I love that. I love that you just not admitted, but shared that you found your voice in your 20s, because I think another aspect that makes people uncomfortable about getting involved in their local community as an adult is that they don't know if they should, right? It's just like, I should have already done this. I should already know what to say. But in reality, so many of us don't have that exposure. Yeah. And for so many of us, it comes into adulthood, right? It's shocking, but that's okay. So one of the parts also from the programming, which you've had a hand in shaping, is that it teaches adults through conversation and through exposure. So can you tell us a little bit about more of that importance of adulthood learning?
Yeah, I mean, I think the large piece of this is, as you said, people expect you to come into adulthood with all of these ideas formatted. And that's not how it works. A lot of our experiences that we shape our lives as adults on really don't start until we're adults. We shape our ideas and our advocacy where we, put all of our coins based on, the work that we do or the friends that we have and the experiences that they're going through. We shape it through being a parent or job loss or being in a relationship. And so it's okay to be in your 30s, 40s, 50s and say, hey, this matters to me. For example, I did not realize the level of my interest in education and equality within education until my son was probably in about second grade. So I was mid-20s, approaching my 30s during that period of time. And now in my mid to late 30s, I'm a staunch advocate of equality and education. And it's okay to, find those things, throughout your adulthood.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I love that. And thank you for sharing again that journey. I think the point of your experience is that anyone can affect change at any level, whether it is just using social media to learn and to have one-on-one conversations, or actually volunteering and finding those mentors that can teach you how to get more involved in a community level. So, for anyone watching, do you have any last words of wisdom or encouragement that can continue sharing their growth as they want to get involved to affect positive change in their communities?
Take the first step. Just use your voice. Be proud of where you are in this journey, and seek those small things that you can do until you find the space that you're comfortable in.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Brittany, for your experience sharing and for shaping GenUnity into what it is becoming. And to anyone who would like to learn about GenUnity, obviously we're going to share on social media. But Brittany, what would be a good way if anyone would ever want to contact you, or what causes do you want us to support since we are all on social media and we can do it?
Yes. Well, right now, as I mentioned, equality within education is a large thing. Get involved in your local school boards. They make the decisions of budgets, of how much is spent per student, of disciplinary actions within districts and how those affect and Black and brown students. Get involved, speak up, say something. You can find me on LinkedIn under Brittany Buford.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And you just heard it yourself. Get involved. Education matters, and it is a huge issue at the national level that we can each advocate for, whether or not we have kids. So thank you so much, Brittany, again. And I will be, I'm sure, talking to you soon through the GenUnity family.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.